Pre-release week is in the books, and tonight we're going to talk about our experiences and get ready for the upcoming A Lawless Time meta. Between the three of us, myself, Kyle, and Sharkey, we went to 9 pre-releases. We played a lot of games, built a lot of different decks, and tonight we're going to talk about it and have some lessons learned. Kyle, Sharkey, welcome on in. How you doing, Kyle?
Yeah, man, I'm doing really well. It's always fun coming off pre-release weekend. A lot of excitement, some disappointment, but all in all, a good time.
Yeah, and that's the reality, right? Like, we go out, we try these things, we have our assumptions, we test things, and we take them from there. Sharkey, how was your weekend?
Well, the optimism before getting beaten down by the reality of the meta is still hanging around a little bit, so we'll see.
Yep, and that's what it is, right? Like, you get a good pool, you get a bad pool. I think last night at the Monday pre-release that I did, man, that was terrible. Terrible pool, awful pool. I know, Kyle, you were down in the dumps on our Saturday pre-release in the morning. You were ready to go home, which it happens to all of us. You're like, am I going to be able to like play anything successful here tonight?
Yeah, I literally had to play a deck with 2 turn 1 plays. In one of my packs I opened didn't even have a rare in it, so it was rough, man.
You had
just insult to injury,
Yeah.
a combination.
I got lucky to get mine out of the way on the channel, like live at least. So
yeah, so it's always good to look at the bright side there. But been a great week getting started. Just dive it in. Like, we did our pre-release tier list, we did our thoughts, our rankings. Just to kick off the show tonight, what are our major changes? I'll bring up our tier list that we had here. Just speaking for myself, this weekend I played Vel twice and Enfys once. I thought Vel was very strong, especially if you still had the credit hate that you kind of need and some good mid-range units to get you to that end game. Enfys I thought was good. My pool was atrocious though. Overall, I think I would keep Vel there, but there's some other changes, right, Kyle?
Yeah, for sure. And, I ended up playing Hera, Jabba, and Clients. And maybe the first one that I'll grab here is Jabba. Jabba was better than I expected. We had him down in D. He's not D. He's better than several leaders that we have above him. He kind of felt like the Jabba from last set, and by that I mean his flip turn is really impactful, and you have to set it up. And you get an ambush, right? So really, you just want to get 1 credit. You don't want to, force it. You don't want to get too many. You're not using his ability a lot, but you want that 1 credit so that way on his flip turn, you can really punish your opponent and take control of the game. And every time I was able to do that, he was effective.
Yeah. It's probably a little different than Constructed, right? Where you're trying to get as many credits as you can. I saw some people probably mistakenly or in error, at least, like playing a 1-drop and then putting it back in your hand on turn 1. Probably not what you want to do with that type of deck, but especially in this format. But overall, I think I could see Jabba being a little bit stronger than we gave him credit for. One that I'll mention here that I want to change, I think that Boba probably belongs in the upper part of B tier, meaning like the highest of the rest. Saw a lot of really strong Boba pools out there. That good mid-range on the slow, the faster end of mid-range here. I think I would probably end up having Enfys and Boba right in the same area, but I think that we were like a little bit low on Boba.
I don't know. I kind of sort of agree, but my one experience with Boba was at the expense of probably a much better pool for somebody else. So it's hard for me to really get a good gauge without having gotten a chance to use him. I actually think we underrated Hera myself. Okay. Speaking of that, because that's the only one I got to play this weekend. Both of my pools were pretty widespread, and it feels a lot like the Mon Mothma leader from Secrets, except that it's I actually think better. Like 3/6 Restore 1 has generally been better for me than the 3/7 do basically nothing. As on top of getting to, like, I did get lucky enough to open almost every Spectre most of the time, and so those Spectres have some seriously powerful effects. Zeb especially is one of those, like, just pops out, destroys something, is now a roadblock. You take over the game. I was fortunate enough in every sealed pool that I've done so far to open a Liberty. So, like, all I had to do was really just get to Liberty and win.
Yeah.
That's not always the case. I did lose some of the games, but that was the entire game plan. So, like, being able to play across the colors in Heroism wasn't particularly hard to activate and was very strong because I could just play the best of my cards instead of being locked into, 2 colors or 2 and a small splash. Like, I had probably a third of my deck that were effectively splash because I could play them with Hera.
Yeah, another leader that maybe I would talk about is the Client. So his ability is pretty much do nothing most of the time. I mean, you might get some tap downs with him. What he was good for is he flips on 5 and he's a 4/4 with shielded, and he felt like the mastery leader to me. I got to play him in a blue deck, and when you flip him and put mastery on him, he's very hard to kill, and he's going to get to hit the base multiple times on a 5 flip. That was like the whole plan with him, and it worked really well.
I would say the mastery plan probably works with every leader, right? Just and I'm obviously kidding, and and somewhat in jest, but just what an incredible card in the limited format. Last night I was playing Enfys Yellow. Really had a tough choice. Sharkey was building his pool next to me, and we were moaning and groaning about it. For comparison, I think you had 3 Ezra Bridgers. Right.
Yeah.
And
I opened 3 Ezras.
So
I also had mastery.
Yeah. Okay. So I had a mastery in there that I was using either just to pay for 5 usually, or with the minus plus the aspect on Enfys, or using the splash base with it. Just probably an amazing thing. But I could see the client being a little bit better with that shield, because the shield really does make a difference, right? And you are paying the front being the do nothing aspect, but if your pool can support that style of build, and you're not getting completely outvalued based on that, I think it could make a lot of sense. For me, I think Enfys is still, for me, probably at the top of that B tier area, just because of how fast it can be. The games where the deck really, really, hummed well for me last night, which were few and far between. But I had, the helmet being able to give 6 to like anything, whether it was a defensive give 6 or an aggressive give 6. Giving 6 is giving 6, right? So that was really solid. I did see some people playing Lando and kind of like just milling every turn, which I thought was relatively interesting. Not milling your own deck, milling your opponent's deck, which was kind of just fun to see. I don't know how effective that will be in the long run, especially in like a larger tournament where you're playing later in the day against better and better decks. But interesting strategy. I guess the thought is not many bombs, not many very good cards, only 30 cards in the deck.
I mean, if you're playing against someone like Kyle, it probably pisses him off enough that it might actually work for you.
I did have a Lando, try that strategy, and he did mill a couple of bombs, whereas if the game had gone a little longer, it probably would have worked out for him. The problem is him doing it put him behind curve for that turn, and he could just never recover.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think my curiosity still comes a little bit where Saw comes into play. We noticed a lot of variants. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments about how many you opened in your sealed pool. And when I say how many, I mean how many double aspect cards at large, right? I saw ranges from anywhere from 6 in 6 packs to mid 20s in 6 packs. And it's something that I'm going to be following throughout this competitive season from the sealed environment, just to see like what that looks like. Right? Like, is there any correlation with the amount of double aspect cards that you could actually play and how well you do? Because these cards really are powerful, whether it's on the super high end and the Spectres, like Kyle mentioned, or just, a well-statted unit somewhere up and down the curve, right?
Yep, absolutely. I mean, I could say anecdotally, the pools that I had more multi-aspect cards were my stronger pools this weekend, right? The multi-aspect cards generally are good. They're more akin to like heroes and villainy cards rather than non-aspect single aspect cards. So I think it probably is good for you should you open more than less generally.
Mm-hmm. I got one more leader to move here a little bit. And it's not a big move, but I think I would move Aura out of this top tier. I think Aura's still really good, but I think she's kind of like the best of the rest for me currently.
Interesting. I was going to pick on Vel a little bit.
Okay.
We really talked about like should she be S, should she be Leia? She's probably still A, but I found if I didn't have credit hate, I was very hesitant to want to use her ability, and my opponents were too. And it was probably the right move not to use her ability a lot of the time, because I would have punished them. I mean, a lot of the time I didn't get to play Vel, but I played against multiple Vels. And most of the time I was sitting there thinking to myself, please use that ability. Please use that ability, right? And they had to think about it. Whereas like with Leia, of course they were going to use it, right? And so, yeah, there was definitely a few times I got to punish them. And if a Vel deck doesn't have some of the credit hate to go with it, it's dangerous.
Yeah, I think I played Vel twice this weekend, right? Both yellow, kind of just worked out that way. I went into Saturday saying, I want to play anything but Vel yellow, right? Because if you guys remember on the channel, if you haven't watched it, I built Aura yellow. So it was blue yellow in every sealed pool that I've done so far up to last night. But what I had, so on Saturday, I had a very solid Val pool with 2 Convey X or Convey X security guards, the 2.5 or 2.4 that blanks all credits. I had 1 Lieutenant Gordon, I had 1 Tamarin, and 2 Defiant Scrappers. With that build, I felt extremely confident either giving them no actions, no chances to use the credit, or 1 action, right? And that action you could sequence and you could have some control. I really do agree with you, though. You have to be careful about it. I do think on the top end, though, when we get to these larger events, when you're playing better and better decks every single round, we will see like those types of L exist, and then we'll be able to really understand. Right?
Yeah, I just think it's more contingent to your point. You need to have that hate for her to really hum, whereas with Leia, you didn't have a contingency like that. So I agree. When you get that sort of build, she's probably sitting at the top of A, but you know, they don't always have it.
Yeah, and my last note there would just be I was like so excited when I opened Gorn and one of my later packs, the 4/4 for 3 that on attack it to take control of a credit. But honestly, out of all the credit hate stuff, I thought that was probably the least impactful out of the gang. I think it's just a flat great unit at 4/4 for 3. But in terms of controlling the flow of credits, I thought it was definitely the weakest of the bunch, which I thought was really interesting.
It's the one that gives you, I think, the easiest to interact with. So yeah, I can see what you mean.
Still, I was thrilled to open it. It's a 4/4 for 3, right? Like,
yeah, I ran it in Hero.
Yeah, no complaints here, right? But I did think that was interesting. Okay, any final notes about pre-release weekend? I got a couple quick ones before we get to some meta, but less about the the tiers and more about just the experience.
Yeah, I mean, I got a couple. I would say just generally, I thought this pre-release was really fun, and it was really wide open, right? There's been pre-releases before with like TWI Anakin. It's like, did you rip Anakin? No? Okay, you're going to get stomped, right? And even last set, Leia was kind of that way. Everybody was playing everything this weekend, and it always felt like everybody kind of had a shot, right? Like, you know, the other part of that was deck building was just so much, I don't want to say harder. It definitely took me far longer than it has in previous sets.
Right? Like, you really had to think about how are you using your splash base, how many cards you were using. And we felt that in the pre-release, but I think when you're sitting down around everybody, it gets magnified and stuff like that. Like, for instance, on the Friday pre-release, I had Luke to splash. I felt amazing about that, right? My main splash targets were like Luke and Haymaker. Felt good, you know, but sometimes you have to figure out, am I doing Leppy Lookout, which also can feel good, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, I think in general, just the multicolored aspect of both the bases and how many cards. I mean, one of them I was pretty low on, but the other ones I had a ton of multi-aspect stuff, and you kind of have to look at all of the color combinations as to which base do I actually run, which one's my base, which one's my splash.
Yeah.
And that actually takes a bit more rearranging, re-looking at things, re-examining your previous assumptions, and then throwing it all out and going with a completely different leader. But like, it can happen a lot in this one just because of the combinations are, it feels like at least a lot higher than previous.
Yeah. Another quick one here is that when we felt this too in our in-house tournament, but the games are going longer. You're getting to 7, you're getting to 8 most likely, maybe even further than that. Kyle?
Yeah, definitely felt like the games went longer. I mean, there's just a lack of really threatening 2-drops, and there also was kind of a notable lack of like space threat type decks, you know, where a deck could just go space early and get you and it was a problem. That didn't really happen too much in any of the games that I saw, so it really just kind of, you know, got us to where, okay, now we're going to get to the mid game and to the later game. I mean, I got to play 8 and 9 drops this weekend. There's been sets in sealed where that was never going to happen, right?
Yeah.
And so some of that was a combination of having credits to allow me to cheat my way there, but it was also just the games going longer, right? You know, I got to play a triangle in a sealed event like that. That doesn't usually happen.
I played Liberty every game I played, I think. Like, I opened it in every pool, and I think I played it in nearly every game I played.
Yeah. So I think that's something to kind of orient our expectations of a game and how we're approaching deck building and selection and stuff like that. Any other notes before we get out of here?
Yeah, I just would mention that I'm really interested to see where draft goes. I know this isn't sealed, but like having gone through this sealed event, draft is going to be really interesting. And I'm hoping we get some draft events. We don't have a draft PQ here in Colorado this set, which actually kind of bums me out because I think it would be pretty crazy this set to be able to do sealed and draft. So I don't know. I'm hoping some of our local stores run it because I think it looks really interesting, this set particularly.
Yeah, I would love like a sealed showdown, a sealed 1K to a draft or something like that. That'd be really fun.
Yeah, as long as I can get to the draft part, I'd be way more interested. Like that, like Kyle said, it's gonna be kind of nuts when you're actually drafting some of these cards.
Yeah, especially if they do a timer. I'm like, whoa, hold on, no, like I can see you kind of panicking a little bit,
Well, it's kind of hard to, and you're not allowed to look at your cards when you draft, right? So as you're trying to figure out what aspects you're drafting, it could be a lot more complicated. So overall, I thought it was just a great weekend. I always get excited. My last note here on my end is just like, it's time for new players getting into the game. Saw a lot of new players coming out and asking questions and, not necessarily understanding how to build or what this means. And, I know all of you fine listeners here at the Cantina Crew just would be in the helping camp, but just like, you just remember, if we want the game to grow, this isn't one of those entry points. This is one of the stops where we're like, hey, welcome in, have a good time.
Yep. And the events were pretty big. I went to multiple events, 20 plus people, right? So that's cool.
Wizard Chest on Friday had 30, right?
Yeah, that's right. So 32.
It's huge, right?
So we even had 15 at Collector Mania on Monday.
Yeah,
which is a Monday
solid.
night.
Yeah, Monday night. All right. Getting out of here with my last note on the experience is that, man, the God boxes are a thing. We kind of thought could it be AI, could be a meme, could not be. We have some questions like, is this in addition to, is this affecting normal distribution? Who knows? Those answers have not been out yet, but wow, just what an interesting thing. They used to have them intentionally in the old WWF Raw Deal game, but now it's a new thing, and we'll try to find out if it's intentional or if it was a mistake. But overall, thanks, like huge congrats to those people that opened it. I hope it doesn't impact the overall supply in any way.
I was about to ask, like, in the old games with the God boxes, did it affect them? Because I know at least one person who hasn't opened basically anything.
No, it was complete. It was intentional. It was a marketing thing. It was a fun thing. It was a special thing.
Well, there's definitely a lot of dud boxes floating around because I have yet to open anything that isn't a dud box.
Yeah, we need an answer, right? Like, it makes it feel extra bad, right? Between Sharkey and I, we bought a lot of product. Neither of us got a single showcase. And when you see these God boxes getting opened, I'm not the only one out there going, okay, were some of those showcases supposed to be more widely, distributed amongst all of these dead boxes, right? Did my hit rate go down? I spent over $1,000 on product. Did my hit rate go down because of this? Maybe not, but we need an answer because it felt really bad, man. I mean, I opened a lot of product this weekend. I feel awful about what I opened. I also got, anyway, I'm not going to complain about my specific drops, aside from saying I was really disappointed. It bummed me out. And then you see the God boxes and you have to think, like, is this contributing to that? Because it feels extra bad, you know?
Well, at the same time, you're like, wow, this is awesome. That must be a crazy thing for them to experience. Like, I would love that as well. Like, these dueling feelings of like, that's cool, but why not me? Right, and that's
I'm happy they got it.
That's the human
But if they got it at the expense of like 12 people, then it's like, well, hang on a minute.
Yeah, we just don't know, right? And hopefully we'll find out. All the prognostication in the world won't give us an answer one way or the other, right? And I think from a marketing perspective, like if I was doing it, I probably would have announced it and done something cool where it's like, something like you draw attention to it. But who knows? We'll find out in a couple of weeks. Let us know in the comments what you think about it.
That makes me feel like it wasn't on purpose. A, that we haven't heard a response about it yet, and B, that it wasn't announced makes it very much feel like this was not on purpose. But
no,
we'll see.
I don't know. I mean, I think there's a lot of questions to be answered, whether it's a printer side thing, like FFG doesn't own their means of production, so there's a lot of different aspects that could be going on.
Other interesting oddities that we noticed, like Paul opened up rare for rare, the exact same ones.
Yeah. Well, collation has always been a thing, where they've done better than
still a bit of a
others.
weird thing right now.
Sure. All right, let's head on to the next thing, which is a fun one. It's doing our giveaways from our last video, and then we're going to dive into a little bit of a meta preview and dive into the fun stuff that we've been practicing and building decks for. So in our last video, or maybe 2 videos ago at this point, we've been publishing so much content. We were talking about a giveaway from our friends over at FFG. They gave us some great product, and we're paying it forward to you guys. It's the Anakin Pod Racer mat and the Jabba mat. So we have 50 different commenters who had commented on that last video. We're going to do a quick drawing, get that on out to you. Here's the stuff, so it's not fake.
Which one? Which
Right.
one first? Which one first?
Let's go with Jabba first, because Jabba I think is the in
I do
hindsight
like the
I think
Jabba
it's
one.
the cooler one. So apologies
Okay.
to the Anakin guy. I love that one.
Do
Too.
do they also get the base damage thing? Is that what we
Oh
said?
yeah, of course. You get that. We're gonna send you a great base damage thing that I don't want to have in my house anymore. All right, we're picking a winner here. Here we go. 44 rotten little monster. So we'll tag you in our Discord and go inside of our comments on YouTube and get that. So we got that, and we're gonna pick again here.
Jabba Matt. Jabba. So this is Anakin Matt.
This is the Anakin Matt.
All right. Boo, boo, boo.
And it is Manor 2685. So we'll reach out to you to get your information. You remember you had got to be in our Discord so we could reach out to you and get that address stuff. But enough confetti, enough giveaways. Let's get into this meta preview because it's looking pretty fun. I'm really excited about where things are. There are some questions up in the air, like what's going to happen with aggressive negotiations and all that fun stuff. But I don't think it's that big of a deal yet. I don't think it's something that we need to freak out about yet. It's super powerful. No one's gonna deny that. But I don't think we're at Django levels or force throw levels yet. But overall, I think there's like a handful of decks that are really viable. We're gonna pick 3 to talk about tonight that we're interested in, that we've all kind of been playing quite a bit to different degrees. The first one that I think we've all been playing that I want to talk about here is Talzin Yellow. I think the first video that we put out talking about the new stuff was 3 decks, and I was talking about Talzin Red, and I was playing both of them at the time. I'm still playing a little bit of Talzin Red, but I think that Talzin Yellow is in a lot better of a spot right now. I think it is like the second most popular deck being played online right now behind Obi Virgin's Temple. This is my version of it. We all have a couple different things that we're doing here. Currently I'm testing some different stuff, like in a different list with the FN Trooper to plot out. That's a little bit more experimental. I haven't played that enough to feel super confident telling you guys about it yet. But overall, I think it's a really tight list. You have really great 3-drops. You have really great 4-drops. You have great ambushing units like the Stranger and Finn, and in the top end I'm running Cantwell, Nihilus, and Thrawn. I think there's been a lot of different conversation at that top end what you're doing. Kyle, I think you're running the Sun, right?
Yeah, I find there's games where I have multiple units on the ground, and the Sun can be a good finisher just to buff everything and get it done. I will say, from a bombs perspective, one thing that I think everybody that I've seen is kind of getting away from is a lot of the initial lists were running the Vader Sheehan Flurry package. Right, one of your big bombs was going to be Sheehan Flurry Vader. I feel like it was right around the time that we got Kymer, the Stranger, is when you kind of saw that disappear, because we got good ambush out of Kymer and Finn that kind of made that unnecessary, and it was just that combo just didn't come up reliably enough. It was ineffective if they didn't have ground units, especially if they were doing a space thing. So, I think that's where we've seen that bombs changes. We're getting away from Vader, and we're kind of figuring out which combination of the top end do we want. I think it kind of depends on what you're facing, right? Like you have your list here. I don't like Nihilus at all, right? So for me, I'm not running him.
So let's talk about
it's
him.
Kind of some of it's a taste thing.
He's in the spot with the Sun, right? I think that Thrawn is really good. I think I'm going to have Thrawn in my list regardless if I have Nihilist or Sun. I think that he's kind of just like a great cross arena capture or a play and get a lot of reach in. I'm really sold on Thrawn personally. Nihilist I'm liking more than the Sun, solely for the reason that I think that he helps more in the matchups that I feel like we're a little bit weak into, a la the Vader decks of the world, the space decks of the world, being able to ping across arena. Where the Sun, I think the Sun's awesome, right? I think the Sun is a really awesome aggressive unit, has a ton of value. It definitely would be in my considerations to play. But I think the Sun just really, I think Nihilus just really gives you some utility that Sun doesn't give you in those matchups personally.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the Nihilus is a little too late for me to be helping me with Vader at all, and especially if it's just pinging one TIE fighter, that sort of thing. So I guess I just haven't seen the effectiveness of it. But that's the point of this conversation: is that we got to figure out what that combination is, and that it's probably going to change as the meta changes. Right? These cards will all be in that pool of what goes there.
Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting because I've tested both Nihilus and the Sun in Talzin, and I've tested it in my off-meta jank that I always run. I like Nihilus better in non-Talzin decks, and I like Sun better, I think, in Talzin.
Interesting.
But I'm not sold on that to the point where I'm really willing to commit to that just yet, because they're both pretty pretty good in different spots.
Yeah.
Nihilus can take over a game, assuming the game hasn't gotten out of hand already. The Sun can help end a game that has gotten out of hand, and you just need to finish it. Like, they're both very different tools for different situations, and I don't think either of them is necessarily bad in the right meta. It's just, I'm not even 100% sure I could tell you what the entirety of the meta will look like.
Yeah.
So, like, right now I've got Nihilus in there because I really like him in the Revan decks I run, but the Sun is a very, very good card.
Yeah, and I think just to that point, as we flick through, we see what the core of these builds are, right? Like, it's the Force Package 2-drops in every list. Sage, Karis, Treyas. There's some conversation between Krennic. There's some conversation between Sith, Assassin, and some builds. None of us are running it. Sharkey, you're running the Shade, and Owen.
I love the Shade.
Then the 3-drops are probably even more locked in for most lists, right? It's basically Shin and Treya with the occasional Supremacy tie or something like that. Kyle, I don't believe that you're running Supremacy tie, right?
I am not.
Yeah, either am I.
I think I'm the only weirdo.
And then we have, the awesome upgrades with Constructed and Condemn. That's like our 3-drop core. 4-drop, same thing. Some mix of Churret, Tyrannus, and Talzin's Assassin, right? And then we have the Stranger. Some
4
lists
is crowded.
Yeah. Some lists are running Anakin, like Kyle is here. I'm just running Finn right now. I was running Anakin in my list when I had Sheen in it. And then I took Vader out, and I was still running Sheen to have, the Talzin's Assassin and Anakin do it. And then I found that we kind of reached that critical massive ambush with the Stranger coming in and Finn and so on and so forth. I guess we see the Sun and Nihilus a little different, Kyle. Kylie, that's a good one. We should start calling Kylie. That'd be nice. But the Cantel Cruiser, man. Tell me about that. Like, talk to me about what situations you're using that in, because I think overall that's been one of the major surprises of how excited I am about a card in a deck.
Yeah, it's just hitting a big unit, right? Either a suited up unit on the ground that's really giving you a problem, or something big in space, right? Effectively, like let's say they hit that Liberty, right? You're like, no, we're going to tap that down. We're going to keep it that way, right? Yeah, so there's specific targets for it that's very good, while being a huge threat itself. I mean, this thing is hard to kill, right? It's just going to start smacking you in space.
6-7 in space is big.
The
other one I like to use it on is Luke.
Yeah. You don't expect a ship like this with this strong of ability to be like this functional in attacking, right? Like it's got good stats for a 7-drop. It doesn't have great stats, but it's got good stats.
Yeah, this is my list you're looking at right now. So when you're talking about experimental, the removal card, the 7-cost one at the bottom, I'm forgetting its name, the Explosion.
Rhydonium, I think.
Yeah, there you go. That one's more experimental. I just wanted to main deck it a little bit just so that I'd have it as an option to play in game ones just to see how much I like it. It's probably ultimately a sideboard card. One that I've learned that I really, really, really like is Liberated by Darkness. So that's probably going to 2. That's going to 2 for me. That game's just straight up won me several games, right? Like they put out a huge Sentinel. I've had people play like big Krennic in different decks and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, I'll just take that and then hit you with everything, right? Like it's been very good.
Yeah. I haven't been sold on that as much. Personally, I'm gonna try it a little bit more, but I haven't been amazed by it yet. I think the main difference in our builds is that you just have, and you kind of always lean more into a toolbox style with more one-offs than I normally do. Another card that kind of stood out to me at the beginning of playing Talzin that I wasn't playing, and then I've kind of grown on me, and I think a lot of lists aren't playing it right now, is Whirlwind of Power. I mentioned the space decks earlier. I do think that we have a little bit of a weakness there, and especially on the ground too. Like with Talzin, you could kill a 4 HP unit with this without attacking.
That's where Supremacy Tie went, right? It kind of does the same thing. It helps me deal with one little space unit, but it's way more flexible and functional because I don't have to just stick it in space or use it there. I can use it to deal with other threats.
Mm-hmm. And then Sharkey, in your list, I think the biggest thing that stands out to me is Cad, obviously.
There's no Homer pick here at all.
Yeah.
Well,
how can you not?
So in my Talzin Red list, I've been running both FN Trooper and Cad, and that's what kind of gave me the idea to test FN Trooper and Talzin. But I think in my order of operations, I want to play Stranger on 5 most of the time. Right.
100%. That's the other part of it too. Like I like Cad, but he's 1 because frankly I'm not really playing him that often. But the times that you want to play him are really good.
Yeah.
You need to eliminate You need to finish eliminating something in space that ran into your supremacy tie. You need to finish off a unit that's a sentinel that just got in the way. There's all kinds of uses to kill a 2-hit point thing, and sometimes it's a 3-hit point thing because of Talzin's help.
Well, also just think about on your flip turn, right? If you're plotting CAD and you do your typical -2 with Talzin, you can kill something that has 4 HP naturally. And then on top of that, if you have Treya, it could be as much as 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's it enables a lot of options. It's by far of the 5 cost cards that you're looking at right there, it's probably the one I play the least. You really want to play Stranger. Liberated by Darkness, like I was saying, is actually very good in a lot of different matchups. And it kind of catches people off guard still. I don't know how long that's going to happen, but at least for now, it's like, oh, yeah, that's a card. And you just win the game on the spot in a lot of cases. You either throw their big unit at them, you trade 2 of their units in together. There's lots of ways to use that to a point to just swing the game your way. The other thing I also like to do on flip, honestly, is constructed plus a 2-drop. Yeah. So, like, CAD is pretty far down the list of things I want to do, but it has been one of those things like, uh-oh, everything is going wrong. Hey, CAD, help me out. Yeah. And that can be useful in games and to help bring them back from the brink, I think. Maybe it's a good way to describe it, right? Like, you're kind of getting screwed over, and then all of a sudden the board is at least even again.
I'm happy that you mentioned the constructed saber plus 2-drop line, because that's one I like to do quite a bit as well. But I am testing the FN Trooper just to see if I like it, to see if it's better than the saber plus 2-drop. I don't think it's better than Stranger on 5, but a 4/8 Talzin is pretty challenging to deal with.
That's
true.
Yeah. It could be just a dominating play. I mean, that's another thing we haven't talked too much about, but there's just a lack of upgrade removal going on right now. God. And some people's upgrade removal, their only option is bounce. Well, you can't bounce a leader, right? So now you've got no answer. And so, really sticking or Voltroning up a leader seems more safe than ever. And so it could be a real problem.
Well, I mean, condemn, right? Which is a perk that we get to use because we could condemn ourselves to stop the condemn thing happening, right? Condemn, you're condemned to get a condemn, so that's great. But overall, really tight list. I think we'll see different variations of it. And like with all of these things, we're going to adjust them to the meta, right? Like we're going to find the tools that work for us that we need in different matchups. And for me, that's one that I've been talking about quite a bit with our Obi Force deck. Obi Virgin's Temple. So for me, like this is like my list right here is really subject to the meta. Like for instance, Amidala for me, she's probably on the chopping block if the meta gets a little faster. I don't think we're going to be as grindy as we were previously, where Amidala really shines. On the surface, you want Amidala, right? Amidala's awesome. She creates units. She's sticky. She does all these things. She has 3 HP, which could be a little bit of a liability with Virgin's Temple here. You give some agency back to your opponent. My sideboard here, mostly prep for space stuff with Tantive and the Defense X-Wing, Galen, Tree, all the different stuff. Outside of that, I think it's, again, another list that has a really tight core. You'll see some variations across lists. I think here at the Cantina Crew, we've always kind of been high on Moral Authority and like the Maz combo, especially in the mirror. Kyle, are you still running the Maz combo?
Oh, yeah. It's the whole reason I brought her in, so I can kill consulars, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yep. And we've been talking about that quite a bit just in other decks as well, like Crushing Blow being an option, just things that could give yourself ability to stop your opponent from getting the forces are things that we need to worry about as Obi, but also want to enforce a little bit as Obi, right? We want to, or excuse me, against Obi. Sabine's Masterpiece is one that I'm testing. I've been chatting with Alex Trez from Blue Milk a lot. He's really high on it. I haven't given it too big of a whirl yet. For me, I'm running 13 turn 1 plays. It just makes me feel a little bit more comfy to have one extra. So that's why I have this single Bodhi here. But overall, really tight list. You have Lando, Typho, Obi, Cinta, great defensive units. Anakin is like a little bit of a new ad for me in the past couple weeks. Gets that -3, another big unit to play on 6. And overall, really happy with the list. I think it's really strong. It's a front runner, whether it's that or Talzin for me going into, our first couple events here.
Yeah, the first thing you mentioned about Amidala, I've been on the same page there. I mean, being able to consular into a 5-drop on turn 2, I want a good, meaty handful of 5-drops that I want to play. Lando's kind of been the best one because then he protects the consular to snowball from there.
Yeah.
But Amidala, yeah, she doesn't always feel good. Like, even if I cheat her out, then they just trade into a spy. She doesn't get the force, to your point. I think she's going to end up being sideboard for me, and I'm going to beef up on, Lando, the Ghost, and actually Coronet is the one I've been liking lately as another 5-drop option.
Yeah.
So, but either way, I think that's where I'll probably end up. I don't know. Coming from last set, I just feel like Amidala, of course she has to be in my green hero deck. Are you kidding me?
Duh,
but
right?
we're not fighting against the same stuff. We're not fighting against Kira. We're not fighting against these more blue-green villain control type decks or these super grindy matchups.
Yeah.
And that's where she's so good. So she probably goes sideboard, and if I need to bring her in, I can. But yeah, I agree.
I agree with that too. But also one quick point on Amidala is that if they handle the rest of your board and you're just playing Amidala, then you don't actually get the force.
Yeah, exactly.
Not with
Right.
Simple.
And there's that inner temptation to buff a spy so you don't give a completely free trade. All those different things. The other note here that I've been thinking about quite a bit is that space fleet. Like the Coronet was one that I was running quite a bit before I made a change a couple days ago. For me, I have basically the masterpiece slot in there right now and hoping that the Ghost is enough. Maybe the Ghost is a 3. In the past, I've experimented with having one Tantive main to cheat out as well. I think I'm either having that in the side or nowhere. Right now, the one thing that I'm not liking about this variation that I built recently was that I feel like I'm a little bit light on top end. I think I need to make room for one more Yoda. I do think that Bo might be like a little bit late in some circumstances if we don't have the consular, but I want Bo. Bo's really good. Like, I need to think about that and test that more. And also I need to think, hey, am I trying to put Ray in the side here? Am I expecting any control? I know, Sharkey, you've been on Ray in the main recently, so maybe you could kind of just state your case for why.
I like Ray in the main personally because she just takes over a game. Like either they have to trade all their units into her to kill her, or they just die to a 9/9 who can get bigger based on other stuff. And my favorite way to get Ray out there is on 5 play Obi-Wan and Consular, and that's on Obi's flip turn. So you have a Sentinel, you have Obi-Wan, you have the Consular still in there, and then worst case scenario, you just claim and then play Ray. Like, that's what the Consular's there for. I don't like Consular going first. I like him on the flip turn better than anything else. Once you've seen it happen once or twice, it's kind of easy to start predicting. So I don't do it every game, but it is probably my favorite way to get that first game kind of locked down. And because of that, like, Ray is just very strong. She's an 8-drop 9/9. If you get to that point in the game and you just play Ray, what are they going to... They can't take control over her. They can't kill her. I'm having trouble coming up with ways to kill her other than just running 9 points worth of damage into her. And that's not exactly easy to come by.
Yeah, to me, she's a sideboard card, but maybe I need to try her more based on what you're saying there. I mean, there's matchups where she can totally dominate, like you say. Back it up a little bit to what you said there, Jordan. I didn't even realize you didn't have Bo main until you said it. I think that's crazy town. I gotta have
yeah, that's crazy tough.
Speaking of cards that just dominate games,
yeah, I think in this time you have to experiment, right? Like you have to try things and you have to see like what is what. And I found myself just not playing it that often, not getting to that point in the game that often. The thing about Bo that's really interesting in here is that you can play it on 7, but I'm trying to like not necessarily approach deck building to say I'm not going to have the consular play, but like wanting to make sure that I'm running on all cylinders when I don't have it, right? Because I know when I have it, it's going to be great. I've just been thinking about that from the other perspective. But I have been feeling that lack of top end. I have been feeling some matchups that I feel more confident in, kind of slipping away with that lack of top end sometimes. That's why I have been thinking about the Amidala play. If I remove Amidala, it would probably be to get an additional Yoda and or an additional Bo. But I do think that the meta isn't as late as it once was. So I'm a little bit less sold on having like 2 Bows. I think I'll probably end up with 1 Bo in the main, but I don't know if I could devote that much real estate to it. But I would love to be wrong because I love Bo.
Yeah, it's a great card.
We'll see where it goes.
Yeah. I guess the last note here that I would say is that there's a lot of upgrades in this build. It might be our versions might be a little bit different than some of the other ones floating around. There's the Yoda's lightsaber, there's Moral Authority, and there's Figure in all three of our builds in some form or fashion. Yoda's lightsaber, is great for a lot of reasons. It's cheap, you get to heal, you get a big power boost. It actually makes Obi a pretty big menace when he flips, right? Moral Authority is probably the one where we differ from a lot of other teams and a lot of other builds in general. I've really liked it going back to playing it in Yoda as that capture overcharged with corruption. I think it's a 3 cost upgrade, which is more expensive than 2, but it's also a capture card, right? So that's the way I look at it. I think it stops you from losing some of those cheesy games early if you don't have answers for Chewie, if you don't have answers for a lot of those different pilot builds. All of the 2-drops that you're playing on the ground have at least 4 HP. You have 1 with 5, obviously. So I think your opportunities to capture relatively large things are there. I also like that as you get to that flip turn, 6 HP is a solid amount of things to capture with Obi. So I like Moral, but I can see the argument against it.
Yeah, the flip turns with Obi-Wan when you play either Moral or Figure plus the saber and just Voltron up Obi is so good, right? He's just a menace at that point, swinging the game. I love that flip play.
Yeah. Sharky?
I for a little while there, I was actually considering both Charged and Moral Authority. They may have overdone the capture. I might run 1 Charged again, but I do like that card a lot as well. Just a comment from the testing I've had. I haven't actually updated Obi in a little while since I've been busy hacking away at a few other decks, but yeah, that was the only real note. And I'm starting to feel the same about Amidala as well. It still feels weird to try to cut Amidala from a green heroism deck, but I'm looking at other things. And actually, I didn't realize you were running the Ghost, and that's kind of a cool idea to me. So I might try that out as well.
Yeah, another Blue Milk shout out for Alex is that we've been talking about this deck a lot, and I think the Ghost is one that he's been really high on. I know Kyle, you've been really high on it too. I think I was a little bit more in the Tantive area earlier on in the set. I still like Tantive a lot, but like the downside to Ghost is that it takes 2 actions. Right? Yeah. Like you have to buff it, you have to do something to make it a Sentinel. Same thing with Cinta. Cinta's still good. The Ghost is still good, right? These are just things that we could think about. Also, you could play it on your 2-turn, which is also really good.
But you can also make Ezra a Sentinel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's good stuff. Good removal suite. We'll be testing this, messing around with it, and seeing where it goes. I'm excited to see how Sabine's Masterpiece is. It is kind of a quasi Sentinel. You have green and blue, so restore 2 plus experience. Hey, I'll take it. And if you have Ezra out, you get to launch both of them, right? Just from 1 unit, which is kind of cool. All right, let's head over to Jyn, which Kyle, you could hit it off here. You've been playing this probably the most out of the 3 of us. I've been playing it a lot too. I really enjoy it. But overall, like, let me just lead with this question. Is this just an aggressive negotiation deck, or is it better than that? If you don't have aggressive negotiations, can you still win games consistently?
Yeah, you can, but the deck is weakened, right? I mean, when I built this deck, this was the very first deck I built before even half the set was released. Sure. Because I saw Jyn and she's one of my favorite characters and I wanted to play it, right? So I know that it has been popularized and there's people all over the place playing it, but I wanted to build it from that case. But yes, I think the very first version I built was called Aggressive Negotiations, the deck, right?
Yep.
Because that was the whole plan, right?
Yeah.
Let's draw a bunch of cards and let's smack you and kill you. And a lot of the times that would happen, with my Hammerhead, that sort of thing. Now it has evolved a little bit, as we're going to talk about it here. The addition here of Papa Noida is one thing that has been pretty interesting, right? Especially if you can start Chio turn 1, use your base to put down Papa Noida and just start going crazy with all the tokens. It's fun. Sometimes it gets out of hand and you just win the game early with that sort of nonsense. It's kind of cool. I'm trying to decide if I really want it or Kanan, right? Because I can only use my splash base on one of them turn, 2 or 3. I have it in there now just because I really wanted to give it a go because I didn't before. But I'm not sure I want to stick with that line of play or not. They're not rebels. It's not really kind of going towards what I ultimately want to do, which is kind of just control the board. I'm not trying to make a weenie army, get a big hand, and then smack you and kill you, right? I do enjoy the deck. I will say the more and more and more I play it, the less and less I'm convinced that it's really going to be a good meta contender. It's a new leader that's fun, and I see a lot of people playing it, but I'm not convinced it's as good as the previous two decks we just talked about.
Yeah, and it's setting a high bar, right? Like I think
Yeah.
those are going to be two very solid decks, especially in this early portion of the meta. But the Papanoia, the Papadopoulos line, whatever you want to call him, I want to call him Papadopoulos. But like you really want to start with Chio, and you're doing that, then it gets really out of hand, right? You get the double proc, or I don't know if that's a proc. I don't know. I'm not hip to the TCG lingo prior to this. But I think you get double draw, double disclose. Very cool. I do think that Kanan's just like better across the board on curve, right? Because it's not just that he's better for me. It's just that he's not good when you don't play him on curve, right? Like when you could get him out on 4 and really blow up their turn, especially because we're gonna have red units out most likely. It just feels so much better than playing him on 6 and bouncing then. It just that bounce just feels so impactful at that point in the game.
Yeah, it really lets you kind of turn things right there and get a lot of chip damage in. I mean, again, the point is we're trying to finish you off probably with aggressive negotiations, and we got to chip our way there to where I can finish you off with one. And Kanan really enables that. He allows you to just, hey, I'm going to bounce that, I'm going to push base. And we're going to get about half your health dead, so that way when we get to 6 and 7, I can kill you. So he's really important for that strategy. Whereas Papanoida, I think we're kind of doing something different that's fun and interesting and good, but it doesn't line up with my original game plan.
Yeah. Sharky, any thoughts?
I've been doing most of the testing with Jyn as the opposing player. I haven't actually really run Jyn a lot, and what's interesting about Jyn is it feels like the games that it hits, like there's no stopping him. The games that it gets controlled, it struggles. Or the games that it doesn't get aggressive negotiations, or the games that Galen says aggressive negotiations. There's a lot of ways, I think, to derail a Jyn deck that people are starting to figure out, and I've been working on it as well. And it's just the highs are high, but the lows I think are a little less consistent than I'd like them to be when you compare them to the other two decks. That being said, it's a powerful deck. It's super fun.
Oh my god,
like, it's fun to be involved with that kind of a power level, right? You just play the dang thing. It's like, all right, hey, look, yeah, exactly. We're nitpicking. I do think even with the weaknesses that are starting to be found, it's going to be a popular deck at the very least. I do think it's a relatively easy one to build.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with new decks and new leaders, it's always interesting because when something new comes out, it seems like at the very beginning you think, oh my goodness, this is so good. What are we going to do about this? It's such a good deck. I've already seen it with Tobias. I've seen it with this. I saw it with the Aura Sing Red deck.
Oh, our video aged poorly, Tobias.
Yeah, I can give a whole bunch. I can give a whole bunch of them, right? That you see it hit the meta right away, and you see a bunch of people playing, and you think this is a real problem. But then you give it a week or two for people to figure it out and know how to play against it, and suddenly you're like, I know what to do here. This isn't as scary as I thought.
The sky's not falling anymore. Oh my god. And that's just the natural cycle. But I guess the last thing I'd say about the Papadopoulos stuff is that maybe it provides like an alternative skew of the deck that makes it less fully reliant on aggressive negotiations, and then provides some flexibility in your play lines and gives your opponent a couple things to think about. I don't know if I believe that, but I think that might be the argument, right? And I'll be testing a little bit more to see. I've been playing this not as much as you, Kyle, but a lot. And this would be like third in my contender for what I'm going to play probably. I think our only difference is in the sideboard. So really, and the sideboard is very experimental for both of us. We're just
the sideboard's just testing.
Works. Exactly.
It's just a list. It's just a list of cards I want to try out. Not a real sideboard.
Is this cool? Right. And that's what it is. We have to change and be flexible with the times. But very, very solid deck. The Hammerhead being able to kill things is awesome. It just does feel like it chalks up to how much did you draw? Did you draw in that? How many did you draw the Hammerhead or aggressive negotiations, or both, or multiple? Right.
Yeah. The other card to mention would be Zeb. Zeb is just so good. In this
Zeb
is
great. Yeah. Zeb is probably the best card in the set. I mean,
he's so good.
Up there.
Yeah,
he's definitely up there.
Yeah.
I can see an argument for it.
The other thing to talk about is the difference between 27 and 30. I think that 27 is firmly just better because of Kanan. I think we're all in the same camp there. But if I had to make an argument for why you weren't doing that, I think it would be like leaning a little bit harder into that Papadopoulos line where you could kind of just ensure that you're always going to have that disclosed, maybe.
Well, the thing about it, like, you can't play the 30 and Papanoida on curve.
Yeah.
So
You still
like,
have to play
Okay,
27.
you're right.
that's the reason. The reason I think 27. Honestly, the reason Jyn Red is still around, in my opinion, is because of the Kanan and Papanoida ads. Like, I don't think the 30 base one is actually that hard to beat at all. I started losing again when 27 came around. They were starting to do that stuff, and so I think that is a massive upgrade over 30.
Yeah. I mean, I obviously, being mistaken there, haven't put much time thinking into why play 30, because I just feel that 27 has been so much better. I can't think of another explanation, though, to be honest.
Yeah,
health is
I totally
real.
agree. I
It's
think
so
it's
good,
worth it. I guess unless you just argue it's not worth the trade-off, but I just disagree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess
Same.
one question is, like, some people have basically said, when you play the card that you're going to play with a splash base, you should be asking yourself, would I play this card if it said deal 3 damage to my base? Is that how you guys are looking at this, or are you looking at it through a different lens?
Yeah, no, I think that's part of it, right? And Kanan's a perfect example. You know, when you flip the game on the 4 resource turn with Kanan, I would gladly take 3 damage to do that, right? But there's a lot of splash cards. Yeah, in other decks, I've thought like, well, I'm playing a 30. Let's consider a 27. I sit there scrolling all the possible cards, and that's part of the calculus, right? Is no, probably not. I probably wouldn't want to do 3 damage to myself just to play that card.
Sharky?
I generally agree. I don't have a whole lot else to add. Kyle got it covered pretty well.
Yeah. I think the other thing to think about outside of that, because I do agree, but I think that the other thing to think about is that there are like hidden costs and opportunity costs and different things that flow into all of these decisions and stuff like that. And generally speaking, there are archetypes of decks that do things better than others, right? Like yellow bounces, red pings, green experience, like these generalities that we talk about. And I think maybe adding some of that synergy to a different archetype allows you to have something where the sum is greater than the parts, you know, and maybe that is a little bit of like value that's hard to calculate and quantify.
It's hard to quantify, in my opinion. I would agree with that specifically.
Yeah.
That being said, I do think that there's going to be a lot of experimentation early with the splash bases that will probably level back out to more of the 30 base baseline, for lack of a better term, as the experiments are run. That doesn't mean that the 27s are useless. It doesn't mean that like there aren't spots for them where they can be very, very good. But I think there's going to be a lot of those in the beginning, a lot less of them by the end.
Yeah, I agree with that. So those were like the 3 decks that we think that you should be, generally speaking, the most prepared for. At least the top 2. Jyn, you can make an argument for 3, I think. We only got a couple more minutes left because we have arbitrary and artificial time cutoffs that don't actually exist.
Time isn't real.
We could go as it's a flat circle too. We go as long as we want, but for the sake of conversation, let's add some urgency here. Let's rapid fire through some other decks real quick that you think that the people, the listeners, the fine folks, should be ready for. I'll start with one, and I think that's Obi Yellow. Boba 30, JTL. Really fast, pretty standard from what we've seen in the past, right? Like, they're playing topple, they're playing big ships, they're playing indirect damage, and if you can't handle it, it's going to be a problem. Kyle?
Yeah, I'm going to extend that into, and it was the first one I was going to take, is pilots. There's going to be a pilot deck. Pilots now with upgrade removal and upgrade hate being less easily accessible are kind of more empowered here. There's other things that make them more empowered. I was actually going to clump them and say it's going to be Vader, Luke, Boba, and Kaz. And 1 or 2 of them is going to be a meta contender, and you're going to run into these in tournaments, right?
And it's going to be
so
annoying.
we're still working through which combination of those 4 works the best. I think you're kind of leaning towards Boba, having picked it first. I'm starting to get pretty annoyed with these Vader decks, and so we'll see. But one of those 4 is going to be at your tournament, and you're going to have to deal with it.
Well, which is funny because for me, if I was like my heart was telling me something, obviously it'd be Kaz, right? Like,
Yeah.
I love
Oh,
Kaz.
yeah.
and
No
it's
bias
great.
at all.
Yeah, there's 0. But I've been playing Kaz. It's like it is firmly settled into my super fun deck to play. I think it's good, but I don't know if it's as good as the others. I've seen a Vader Red floating around that I've rebuilt, and I think it's really solid. And in the past, I haven't been as high on Vader Red than Yellow. Yellow's obviously still around doing its thing. Luke, one you didn't mention, Poe, right? Another
That's true.
deck.
We got a pot deck that I like.
Yeah, another deck that's kind of interesting. That's not as much pilot heavy, but it's super space heavy, and that's that Chewy Yellow that's been floating around.
Yeah, that was what I was going to bring up.
You know, they're barely going to the ground outside of Chewy. and they hate that ship. They're dropping 3 drops for 1 resource with they hate that ship, and they're just going real fast.
Yep.
Yeah, one of the other things I think that we should be at least prepared for is a Kylo deck. One of the things we mentioned earlier is that leaders with a ton of upgrades are actually really hard to remove. Funny story, Kylo was the one who kind of started doing that originally. I've seen red, I've seen yellow, I've seen green, and my favorite is the yellow one. I think the best one might be the red one. And none of them are unbeatable, and none of them are, I don't think, quite to the level of what the Tarkin Town one that the Bothans ran at the Galactics. But I do think that there's something there and something to figure out, and they're very strong. So something to be at least ready for.
But as a callback to Jyn, I think Kylo is the Papanoida deck. I think people started experimenting with it in Jyn. That's where we first saw it, and then we realized, no, it's Kylo. And so, you can still do the same thing. You can start Chio, you can go into Papanoida, but then you've also got Kylo's ability and just a lot of ways to keep making Papanoida happen. And so, that's probably the Papanoida deck. And it is pretty scary when it goes off.
Or maybe like Plot Palpatine, right? I ran into one like last week at the height, at the peak of the aggressive negotiation tulip frenzy. But it was a Plot Palpatine force, basically running the Talzin Red package with aggressive negotiations, right? So just like drawing every single turn. When I played it at first, I was like, what is this deck doing? Am I about to play super hard control? And I was like, nah, it's not at all. Sharkey, what's one that you think the people should keep their eyes out for?
So in addition to the Kylo decks you should watch out for, I think Sebulba Yellow probably is the best Sebulba deck that I've seen. It is a fast deck. It is not quite as resilient, I think, as Sabine was in the past, but that doesn't mean that it isn't something you should take seriously. Right. That's not something you shouldn't take seriously. It is a deck that can hit you from lots of different vectors, so you can go space, you can go ground, you can split it. There's lots of different tools that can just push damage to the point where it's like, oh, crap, I stopped it all, but I'm basically dead now. Yeah. So be aware that Sebulba is out there. I don't think it's unbeatable, but I do think that, especially with aggressive negotiations being in his base color, is something to worry about.
Yeah. And if you're looking for a guide on how to play Sebulba and the deck at large, our buddy Yoda Killer Carlos on the Hyperspace Cube YouTube channel has a couple guides that he's put out so far. I think 2, right? So go over there.
He's got a phenomenal one.
Yeah, let him know that we sent you over so he could annoy us later like he normally does. Kyle, what's one for you? And then we'll get out of here.
Yeah, maybe the last one to mention, man, I hope this doesn't become a thing, but it was real popular for about a week, and that's Aura Red. I mean, we have to mention it. Hard Control not dead, and that deck can be really obnoxious. And it's a deck that, if Talzin becomes super popular, it is a mid-range deck that doesn't go terribly wide in most builds. And Aura is a deck that can punish that strategy. And so it's one thing that I've already started to look at. I would hate myself showing up with this, but if I thought everyone was playing Talzin, I'd probably show up with Aura Red, and so this deck is there as a counterweight. It's there as a counterbalance to some of these mid-range strategies. And so it's probably a necessary evil in the game. There will be that one guy in your local meta who plays it, and so it'll be there.
Yeah, be kind to that guy. He's going through some stuff, or whoever.
Kyle's about to be that guy. What do you mean that he's going through it? We all hate him already for it.
Yeah, I think it's crazy. Like now we're at a spot where you can splash single ignition reactors. I'm going to get it correctly pronounced smoothly by the end of the season.
Single super laser blast.
Yeah, and then you have Rhydonium, and then you also have Nebula if you're a psycho. So good stuff all around. I love it. Needs to be there. The threat at least needs to be there, right? I'm not saying it like needs to be everywhere, but it can't be empty. And I'm on empty. I think I've talked about everything I want to talk about except for one thing, and that's how many compliments we got collectively this weekend on our credit tokens from PremierGames.store. I mean, I remember I was sitting down again in my first round and someone goes, wait a second, where'd you get those? The one that I got from the pre-release was not this cool. And I was like, yeah, it's a different one. And you could go to and I went right into the mode, shout out Marshall being like, and you could go to PremierGames.store and use coupon code Colorado Cantina Crew to get 10% off. That's so shiny, there's a glare, right? So I think one of the main takeaways, and obviously there's probably a little bias because we're in Colorado and the rest of the crew is there, they want to support, is that looking up and down the tables on our pre-releases this weekend, they were just these credits literally everywhere. So get your pair, get some streamer tokens, and join the movement, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I even had one kid, I was playing him, and he called over his friend from another table. He's like, "You got to see these credits, right?" So, yeah, that's great. That's great.
Yeah, I love that. So go over there and give Marshall some support like he supports us here on the podcast. That's it. We got the great meta coming up. I mean, I'm excited. I know there's some things that we're kind of working through, whether it's the showcase stuff or the set at large, finding out the meta, figuring out where we're going to sideboard and stuff. But we'll be here each and every week, breaking it down, getting some new deck ideas. And then sooner or later, we'll have some data to crunch and get into. We have our buddies over at McClunky doing their Cantina Clash. Will allow the name borrowing, all good. And I'm really excited to see that. And then I got a PQ coming up on the weekend of the 4th, so excited about that. We'll be competing all set long. Hopefully you guys and girls and everyone else will be here for the ride with us. So we got midday matchup coming up this weekend, or right Friday?
Yeah, I think so. So, Jillian's been a long-term Sabine player. We're trying to work it out. Does that transition her to a Sebulba player? We didn't get a showcase, so maybe. But also, she wants to revamp Vader Pilot, right? So it'll be either Sebulba or Vader Pilot, and then I'm going to throw a deck that should be challenged by one of those two decks. Meaning, like, if she goes with Vader Pilot, something that I know is weak to space, and see if I can fight through it. Maybe Talzin.
And, maybe I'll be kind and drive up, stop at Bucky's on the way home. I really want to go to Bucky's and drop off the Sebulba showcase. Coma. Yeah, it'd be good.
I just like how he's hedging already to lose to her and lose the bet. So.
Hey, I would love to see that Vader Red deck in action. I've been playing it a little bit, but really, really cool stuff with Sudden Ferocity and got a lot of strong units too that are just a little bit different than the other ones. A little chunkier, not as wide overall. But
shoot me the list.
Yeah,
shoot me the list. We'll check it out.
Great stuff going on here on the channel. Hopefully you guys stick around for it. Until next time, guys, I'm Jordan for Kyle and Sharkey. Stay tuned, stick with us, and we'll see you then. Bye.